How would multiple man work in Marvel Rivals? Try saying that 5 times fast. Hey, my name is Gojibu. I am a tank player, been doing these Marvel Rival pitches, and I got requests to go ahead and knock out Multiple Man or Jamie Madrox. Madrox? I think it's Madrox. Either way, as for a quick rundown, he is a mutant. He is one of the cases where his mutant gene pretty much activated as soon as he was born, so pretty fun time to be this guy's parents. He pretty much has the mutant ability of making a copy of himself. He calls them dupes, and normally the way his powers work is they're actually based on trauma, so the more hits he takes, the more dupes he ends up creating. But for this pitch, and since for the gameplay, it's not really plausible to have him take a ton of hits and then end up making the copies from that, I did make it kind of with the approach that he'd kind of snap, or maybe he'd clap or something like that, and then that would be enough trauma to bring a dupe out. And this is based on the fact that he has done it multiple times in the comics. Again, no pun intended, it's probably going to happen a few times this episode. But again, it is not reliant on him taking the hits for this gameplay pitch, so keep that in mind. And pretty much not much else aside from that. He has utilized these guys because pretty much any information they retain, if they make it back to him, he retains the information as well. So he's used that to make himself a Olympic level athlete. He's got training with firearms. He's a really good marksman. He's standard human level, but because he does have that power, he can usually overwhelm people pretty often. So the main use of his powers is more in the form of espionage, kind of using it to get around people, kind of using it to overwhelm people as well. Again, just having a crowd of very highly trained people after you is going to be a lot to get to a lot of heroes, and he's actually used this to even stalemate She-Hulk once. But again, comic writing, that power scaling, not going to get into it. Either way though, the best angle I could fit Multiple Man into is a Duelist angle. So I went ahead and gave him 300 HP, and then every dupe he creates will have 225 HP, unless specified otherwise. So all these skills that this guy utilizes, anytime you send out a dupe, anytime you make reference to one, they'd have 75 less HP than the normal version of Multiple Man. So again, they can get a little bit annoying to kill, but since, again, there's a caveat, I feel like I balanced it out pretty well. Could be about maybe 2 to 3 stars. Maybe you could stretch it and say 4 stars. The only reason I'd even stretch it possibly and say that is because I didn't give him any self-sustain. He does have an ability that can kind of help him a little bit, but it's very situational. So again, he doesn't have a lot of ways to keep himself healthy. He more so has escapes and a passive that kind of helps him out. But either way, standard Multiple Man, 300 HP, all the dupes 225 HP unless specified otherwise. Getting into it with his passive, it's called Double Feature, and it's on an 80-second cooldown. When Multiple Man is KO'd, the player will assume control of the real Multiple Man on some random point in the map, gaining a second life and placing the passive on cooldown. So essentially, it's a get out of jail free card. And Multiple Man has done this no pun intended, he's done this multiple times where there is a fake out, you think he's out, and then ends up being another one or the real one a little bit, further down the line, somewhere else, and hiding something along those lines. So this is a really fun way to incorporate that. And again, a really cool way to just get a second life and kind of help out because you don't have that self-sustain. Then for his melee, I gave him Pummel, and this is actually a melee attack that whenever you press it, it would cause all the other dupes that are currently on the field to also immediately melee at the same time. So if you have a bunch of them out and you kind of have them all target, or they're all targeting one enemy, you could absolutely just use the melee and then just get a bunch of little melee attacks right there. Because these guys, standard, they're going to have a very different attack that's not the melee, but it is just going to be straight throwing hands. They won't really have a firearm or anything like the Multiple Man that you normally play as has. Then for his primary fire, I gave him Repeaters. Primary fire that utilizes latent DNA stored within Multiple Man. The third shot will send out a larger projectile and cause all dupes to fire a shot at the same target. Dupe shots retain original damage. So I don't know if I phrased this the best, but pretty much the way this is going to end up working is whenever you send out a dupe, they have a hand-to-hand fighting style that they use, right? A normal, primary fire. You're going to be the only real one that has a firearm, essentially. You're going to be the only one that has those repeaters. So pretty much whenever you get the third shot off with your primary fire, it's going to cause all dupes to immediately stop what they're doing, pull out something that they have with them, and then immediately take a shot at whoever you're shooting at. So whether you have 2 dupes out, whether you have 3 dupes out, 8 dupes out, whatever the case is, because I didn't put a max cap on these things, which in retrospect maybe I should have. Maybe I should put like 8 at a time out, but essentially they're going to be very limited as far as reach and more of just an annoyance that dives the backline until you get that third shot off with your primary fire, in which case they will do a huge kind of spike of damage. Then for his alt fire / ability 1, I gave him Alley-Oop on an 18-second cooldown with 2 charges, and this creates a dupe that can send Multiple Man in the direction of his choosing. The dupe created immediately targets the nearest enemy. So this is immediately one way that you can get a dupe out on the field since you do have 2 charges, and this is absolutely a good way to get the jump on people or to back off if you need to. And again, another good get out of jail free card, because again, you think about it, you're going to use this ability, you're going backwards, the dupe is going to throw you backwards, and then immediately engage with whoever was chasing you. The person who was chasing you can absolutely go after you, but then they run the risk of, okay, is he going back to his team? Is he going to pop another dupe, and then I have 2 of these things on me, and then can he turn the tide by, shooting back at me? So again, it's a really good way to escape, but kind of also create an offensive distraction that, while it's not going to cause a ton of damage, will definitely catch some people off guard and maybe make them think twice about pursuing the chase. Then for ability 2, his bread and butter, called Overwhelm, on a 20-second cooldown. Multiple Man stands still and targets a single enemy, focusing his power, creating weaker 100 HP dupes every 1.5 seconds that rush the enemy and hold on to them, slowing them. The longer Multiple Man holds the ability, the more will be created, with 8 max. If the original target is KO'd, the dupes will target any enemies in the area without providing the slow. So again, a awesome way to get your dupes out. It is a 20-second cooldown, so it is a little bit longer, but in all honesty, again, since these spawn every 1.5 seconds, at most you need to stand still for about 12 seconds to get all 8 of these guys out. And again, that is a huge slow on whoever they immediately rush, because that's the first part of the skill. They go, and the more hold on to them, the slower they're going to get, I imagine. I imagine once they get maybe 4 or 5 guys on them, they'd probably be fully slow, like moving at a snail's pace. So that way he doesn't have a stun, but he does have some sort of disable that can help him. And again, if you're holding the key down, if you get like 4, 5, 6 of these dupes out, well, they do have lower HP, they do still get that bonus effect from the shot. So if you're taking shots at them and then the dupes are like rushing them, slowing them off at the same time, you get the 3rd shot off, immediately you're going to have like 4 or 5, however many dupes you have out, they're going to take the shot also. So you can really quickly see how quick it can kind of turn in his favor. Again, that's kind of why I call it Overwhelm, because that is a crazy ability when you think about it. Either way, this is a really fun way to incorporate that. Then for his ability 3, I give him Team Effort on a 12-second cooldown. Multiple Man sends a dupe out that searches for the nearest enemy, rushing past them and making notes of weaknesses before retreating. The dupe rushes back to Multiple Man, and if it makes it back to him, restores 100 HP and provides a buff depending on which class the dupe observed. And these buffs do not stack. So if your dupe runs out and he runs into a Duelist, you get a 20% damage buff when he comes back. If he runs into a Vanguard, you create 2 dupes automatically that you carry with you, and they kind of just immediately go do something else. And then Strategist, the dupes would have 275 HP instead. So any dupes you have out at that point, they would immediately get that buff, instantly get the health back up. So a really good ability to have if you did want to get your dupes back up to current health, if you didn't want to have the beefier ones. So again, just a really fun way to incorporate that whole aspect of him sending out the dupes and them kind of learning stuff for him, bringing that information back, and then him utilizing that in combat. I kind of wanted to find a really fun way to incorporate that, and I feel like it's kind of a little bit of a more boring ability, but I feel like this is a really fun way to incorporate that. Then for his ultimate, I gave him United Front. Multiple Man stands in place and creates a wall of 10 dupes that has 2000 HP. The wall pushes forward with Multiple Man, shielding him and any allies until the wall breaks formation or the HP is drained. If the wall meets an enemy, the group will instantly break formation and begin attacking any enemies in the area. So, I, again, don't know if I wrote this down the best way. It's a little hard to explain without visualizations, and I might do that down the line. But either way, he pretty much summons a giant wall that's got 2k HP. It's going to have 10 Multiple Men kind of standing in front, taking the damage for you guys, and they're kind of going to fall off as the damage piles up. So again, it's either got 2 ways you can go about it. You can either use it as a wall until the HP is fully drained, and it's just, again, a wall that moves with Multiple Men. Or you can immediately push the wall forward, have it break kind of the enemy lines, and then once the wall pushes into the enemy team, if they make contact with somebody physically, the wall's going to immediately break. You're going to have 10 Multiple Men kind of scatter out and then just immediately start going to town on people. So, I mean, again, it's kind of a weird thing to balance. So this is kind of the tricky part of developing these characters, developing these concepts. I don't know what is a nightmare to program and what would be alright to program, because again, I don't want to make this so unbalanced that, you know, you use it as the wall, you get it down to like 10 HP, and then boom, you walk into somebody and then you have 10 full HP guys that just scatter and run around. I don't think that's exactly fair, but at the same point, I don't know if it's, oh, well, if it, you know, gets to a certain threshold, should you lose Multiple Men? So let's say it starts at 2000 HP, it gets brought down to like 1000 HP before it breaks somebody. Should you only get 5 Multiple Men in that instance? Again, it's kind of a mess when you get into the technicalities and how it might work. I do try to keep my stuff realistic always, but again, this is a really fun way to utilize that, and since Overwhelm was one of his standard abilities, I didn't want to just make it so that you spawn a crap ton of these guys for your ultimate. That's the easy way out. I kind of wanted to challenge myself a little bit when designing this guy. Then for his team-ups, I got two. One with Punisher and Rocket, and it's called Multiple Armaments on a 45-second cooldown. Punisher and Rocket can equip the dupes with less efficient firearms, allowing all dupes on the field to temporarily gain a projectile that deals 10 damage with each shot for 10 seconds. So again, just a fun way to kind of, again, go into that whole thing of overwhelming people. If you do have Punisher and Rocket there, I think it stands to reason they would immediately see the potential with this guy and kind of kidding him out with a ton of stuff. So just another fun way to kind of play on the dynamics and everything there. And I feel like this might be a little bit overpowered, but again, it's a 45-second cooldown. You're not going to have your dupes running around all the time. People are going to take him out pretty quick, I imagine, but either way, just another fun way to kind of snowball with this guy. Then for his second team up, I know he's not in the game, but I wanted to give him a team up with Mr. Sinister, and it's called Multiple Options on a 30-second cooldown. Mr. Sinister can create an imperfect clone of Multiple Man, randomly spawning a Vanguard, Strategist, or Duelist version. Each dupe deals 50% of the original Multiple Man's primary fire damage and only has 250 HP. Each is provided an extra bonus and will remain with Sinister as a bodyguard. He would essentially spawn another version of you, would have less HP, about 50 less HP than you, and it would be extremely limited in its AI. But again, each one of these three that he can get is going to get a perk, and I don't think these guys would despawn after a while. So if he manages to keep them around, keep them healthy, because I visualized Mr. Sinister as a strategist that can heal, I think this is probably a really cool way to incorporate that. But getting into the bonuses, if you do spawn a Vanguard one, it would have 350 HP instead of that 250, so it actually have more HP than the original. You could spawn a Strategist version, which gives you a movement speed bonus in a AoE, and that would be provided to friendly units on your team. And then lastly, the Duelist version, which would retain the original damage of the Multiple Man that the person's playing as. So each of these kind of has their own caveat. It does have a little boost that kind of makes them a little bit better to work with since their damage is nerfed. But again, it's just another fun way to kind of incorporate both of their power sets and what they can bring. Then for the costumes, in all honesty, I don't know what they'd want to do for the default look. I kind of, as I looked more and more into his costumes, I kind of fell in love with him more and more. And in all honesty, I wasn't the biggest fan of his look prior to reading up on him for this whole episode and everything. But again, getting into the possible costumes he can have, I think for the default one, he should have that green containment suit, or at least, you know, something calling back to it. He does always have something that kind of carries that logo, usually a trench coat over it, which, speaking of which, I do think that he should absolutely have a skin with the trench coat over it. I think when he joined X Factor, I think that's usually when he's rocking the trench coat. There is the black trench coat, which I'd love, and then the X Factor with the gold belt. I love that suit. That one's my personal favorite. I think if anything should be the basis of his default costume, I think they should play off of that. So along with that, there is the original containment suit that he had when he first had his powers. Kind of had to wear this till he grew up, if I recall correctly. But again, I think this would just be a good little callback. And then on top of that, he does have a Hellfire Gala fit. I don't know if I'd put it in the game, man. Look, I like the guy. I really like the character. He's funny, but I don't know about his sense of fashion, dude. In all honesty, I don't know about that gala suit. And then lastly, since he is already in the game and we've seen him on the map, I do think Warlock symbiosis kind of deal would be really cool. There was a run where him and Warlock kind of had to, you know, share a body, and there was a whole thing. I'm not going to get into it, but this would also be a really cool little callback. I don't know if Warlock himself is going to make it in. Seems like they might be more intent to use him as kind of like a background thing, or like, again, we've seen him in the stage. I don't know if he's ever going to get out, but I mean, if they're not intending on making him into a character, this is the very least they could do. Maybe kind of have Warlock like peeking around the back of Multiple Man and looking at the camera or something along those lines. Either way, one where he's kind of mashed up with Warlock would be really cool. But yeah, that is my pitch for Multiple Man. He is a really interesting character, and I kind of struggled with doing his kit. I've actually been struggling with the last few of these characters. I really do want to push myself with the designs and everything, staying true to the character and also kind of reading up on them beforehand. So by all means, if you guys have any other ideas, any other requests, by all means leave them below in the comments. And join me later in the week as we go over some maps that I want to see in the game, Sentry, a Magneto rework, and then Professor X as well. Thank you guys so much, and as always, peace.